All right, that's a better result. What's up, guys? I'm Brandon Strange, Sports Map Houston. This is the official World Series post-game show for Game 2 of the World Series for 2022 between the Astros and Phillies. Of course, that's why you're here watching. That's what you care about. I'm joined, as always, by my cohort, Josh Jordan, the editor of SportsMapHouston.com. Josh, welcome in a much more... I don't know. It's a lighter post-game show this evening, right?
Yeah, I think we were working out some issues last night. So that was such a gut punch yesterday's game. So nice to come out and, there was a little bit of scares tonight, but for the most part, Astros, Framber in cruise control.
It's one of the things that the Astros, who don't see Philadelphia very much during the season, and if you haven't been paying to the NL side of the bracket during the playoffs, you might not understand just the relentlessness with which the Phillies are playing in this postseason. And it was evident against tonight because no lead felt safe, especially after game one. We talked about how big that was just from a psychological standpoint for the Astros to, in Verlander to give that 5-run lead back yesterday, and how much that could have been a tone setter game for the Astros and instead was a tone setter game for the Phillies. And that tone was, we're never going away. We're always going to be there. And so no lead feels safe in this series, but it's making for some really compelling baseball, and it will cost you probably about 5 years off your life by the end of the series. But if you're willing to hang through, we may get to see some entertaining ball. Josh, I want to get, I mentioned Verlander. It was a divisive point of conversation yesterday. I want to ask you about Verlander and kind of juxtapose the performance for Framber. Before we do that, I know we have a sponsor that's sponsoring our post-game show this evening. Do you want to give everybody a word for Academy Sports and Outdoors?
Yeah, guys, Academy Sports and Outdoors, the World Series here, and Academy has everything you need to rep the Astros, guys. So what a perfect day to go pick up a Breggy jersey. They got t-shirts, they got ball caps, they have everything, all the officially licensed stuff. They have it at Academy. They have great prices. Hey, if you can't make it down there, shop online. They have all kinds of cool options. New stuff is coming in daily. So, every day, just kind of pull up academy.com, check out what they got, what's new. And they have the best brands too, guys. Nike, New Era, 47 brand, whatever you need, guys. Go over to Academy Sports and Outdoors. Check out the new styles daily and go Astros.
Dude, they have so much sweet Astros merch over there. The question is not, do I want to buy something? It's how much do I want to buy, or how much can I buy without getting in trouble? So I mentioned JV, his performance last night. Obviously, it's been the top of conversation all day today following his game one performance. We see Framber come out in essentially this was a must-win game, considering you go back to Philadelphia for 3 straight. So this was a must-win game. And we saw what Framber looked like, last year in the postseason, not nearly as reliable as he's been this year. But here we are on the World Series, big stage, must win. What did you think about Framber Valdez's performance tonight?
Man, Framber was fantastic. I mean, he was really good. I was impressed, and he was calm, cool, collected. He got similar run support to Verlander, but Framber knew how to hold on to it. And he just, fastball, he's spotting pitches. I thought the umpire did a pretty good job behind the plate tonight of, calling the zone correctly. And Framber took advantage of it, working that curveball, working the corners. And what else can you say? But you needed this win bad. I mean, you couldn't go back to Philly down 0-2. So Framber stepped up, man, and Breggy and the whole offense getting started immediately. The back-to-back were 3 doubles in a row, right? With Altuve, Pena, and then Jordan. So
that's right.
They jumped on them early and showed they were about business, and it held up.
Let's talk about that bottom of the first that you're talking about, because that really was the tone setter coming out. There was, look, there's no, beating around the bush. Game one was a gut punch, yep. But I think the difference in this team is in the strength of this team. Another one of their strengths for the Houston Astros is their resiliency. They have been here before. They have experience, so they understand the highs and lows of a series, and especially when you're, battling against a red hot team in the way that the Phillies are red hot right now. And it's just really interesting. It's a kind of clash of styles, whereas you feel like Astros 6 ALCSs in a row, old guard, here comes Philly, feels like new guard, young up and comers, and really, trying to create more than a puncher's chance for themselves. They are every bit as build. This has been a really, really good series. And it was really critical for the Astros to come and kind of set the tone this evening. And that's what happens. Altuve, first pitch, breaks out of this funk that he's been in, double to left. Pena, RBI, double. You're 2 pitches in, and you already have a run in this game. So again, like this tells you we never know what we're talking about in baseball, because last night was Nola, in Verlander, dudes who don't give up runs, and they give up a nickel piece. And then tonight, here's Zach Wheeler, and they just get to him early.
They did. They had a great game plan. They saw some fastballs early, and they didn't miss. That was huge. So getting out, just getting that good mojo going, getting the bats going. And to me, it's Altuve, man, that we've been talking about. He's been basically a mascot for these playoffs until today. Yes. So, that's huge to have Altuve leading the way, getting big hits. What, he was 3 for 4 tonight?
Yes.
So, just to have him getting going and not having an automatic out to start every top of the order, that was fantastic. And Pena, he's doing his part too. So awesome to see Altuve get going. Hopefully that continues for him.
It was Altuve is kind of a tale of 2 sides of the ball, though, because there were a base running, I don't know, I would call it a misjudgment on his part, and also a fielding gaffe that we'll get to that a little later. But that was a heart-stopping top of the 8th for the Astros. But all in all, Altuve looking like Altuve again, and he breaks out of it in a way that, of course, that's how Altuve always seems to. It's like when he gets in one of these slumps, what happens? He just explodes with hits. It's almost homeostasis personified. Dude just, starts peppering them all over the place, and that's what's happening right now with Altuve.
Yeah, he had more hits than anybody in the game today. He's the only one, looking at both ball clubs box score, he's the only one with multiple hits in this game. So Altuve was a big difference maker.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, you can't undersell the just importance of setting the tone early on that. I want to talk about Alex Bregman as well. I want to talk about Alex Bregman because there were a lot of question marks, a lot of questions around Alex Bregman at the beginning of this season and through the first half of the season. And Bregman slowly began to find himself in that second half of the season and he was kind of reborn back into the Alex Bregman that we're all familiar with. And from all accounts, he was getting used to his body, life with a new body and maybe a slower set of wheels. Maybe the base is different after having issues with quad and hammies. So having all that soft tissue issues on the lower body, having to kind of re-find himself as a baseball player. But it is safe to say in this postseason, it has carried over. He has found himself, and he is big time Breggy again in the postseason.
Every time he comes up to the plate, you feel like something good is going to happen. And how awesome is that? And you need that behind Yordan too. So just Bregman doing that, Yuli turning back into old Yuli. These are what we needed. That is so huge because, look at the slump Altuve went in.
Yes.
You're going to need other guys to get some offense, for you. And, speaking of that, your designated hitter doesn't get a hit. I mean,
right.
that has become the theme. The guy that's designated to be your hitter can't get any hits.
Yeah, I have that on my notes, like kind of throughout. It's just it seemed like rally killers. It
Yeah.
just like at every turn, it seemed like that was when when the levee started to give away and the dam started to break. It always felt like, oh, it's back around to the DH spot, and there goes the momentum for whatever you had going. No matter what size you had cooking, the momentum, got zapped. And so we should talk about Mancini Diaz dance that's been happening all postseason now tilts back to Diaz playing, but he's playing left, and they put Jordan back at DH. So what did you think about that decision, and what do you think about the continuation to go back and forth between those two guys? We're all kind of talking about where's David Hensley, but it's clear from the post game and all accounts, it seems like Dusty's going to go with one of those two guys.
I think, but they asked, would Hensley be considered? And Dusty didn't shoot it down. He was just kind of like, we'll have to see. He didn't really want to tip his hand. So
Yeah.
I think the results are starting to, make him think this just isn't working. Let's try somebody else.
It's not a panic move to do that. Like you have to understand, like, sample sizes when you're talking about this, because I know there's a lot of like, oh, you don't want to panic just because you're in the World Series. You don't want to change, but it's not panicking. Like what you do all season is when something's not working, you move it around. Like there's very rare exceptions to that. Yuli, you didn't mess with because Yuli was going to be your first baseman, and that was going to be it. So as much as a lot of people wanted to see, especially once they traded for Trey, and they wanted to see Trey Mancini more at first, it just wasn't going to happen except for, off days, scheduled off days, because Yuli was always going to be the first baseman. So it just didn't make sense for them to do that. But in a position like center field, that was always moving. That was always like a different person out there a lot, especially once, when Myers was up and then, got called back up again, there was always kind of a rotation of people in center. So I would argue that the DH position, if you're putting somebody else in there, that's kind of what you did during the regular season, right? But you have a sample size now to where it says, okay, Diaz and Mancini aren't going to necessarily give you things consistently. Jordan's not giving you things consistently right now. So he's kind of part of that trio because you're rotating people into that DH position. It almost makes, I just think it makes sense if you wanted to put David Hensley in the DH spot. I don't necessarily think that's panicking.
What's the worst he does? Goes hitless?
Right.
Mancini's 0 for 16 for the entire postseason. Yeah. I mean, so if he has one game where he doesn't get you a hit, you've been doing that. They've been searching for answers since Michael Brantley went down. That's just bottom line. So, and they're still looking. But so, yeah, give him a shot.
Yeah, I think so too, man. You're exactly right. Like, what's the risk? You get exactly what you're getting right now.
Exactly.
Look, I want Trey Mancini. Like every time he's up there, I go, is this going to be the at bat in which he turns it around? And I hope every time. And the same thing for Diaz too. You know what I mean? Like I remember what Diaz looks like when he is on, and there's few guys that are better hitters when he's on. He's just an absolute animal behind the, at the plate. But that ain't who he is right now for whatever reason. And man, I love the guy. I want to see him. I think it's good to continue to get him at bats. And I think he does need to be part of that rotation, but I don't think it'd be the worst thing in the world if you just move a David Hensley in there, like for a game, just to kind of see what happens. I think it'd be better to do it at home than on the road. And now you're on the road for 3 games. So the time to do it arguably would have been in one of these first 2 games, just to kind of let him dip his toe in the World Series water. But we've seen him in the postseason take at bats, and he's a professional. So I don't think the moment's going to be too big for him.
No, and I guess you could argue they just faced the Phillies' 2 best pitchers. I mean, that's just the truth. So maybe get him in at bat against one of their pitchers that isn't one of their best pitchers. Maybe he has a better chance when he's not going against, Nola or Wheeler. So maybe we'll see. I mean, Dusty he's being a little coy. I think it's crossing his mind.
He's never going to give anything away. That's just the It's Astro Ball 101 is just to not give everything away. Mary says he's going to wait. All right, Mary.
Yeah.
All
Well,
right.
that's been what Dusty has said
Yeah.
previous to this, that, "Hey,
Yeah.
there's a pecking order, and, he'll get his time when he gets it." And, yeah, there's another comment, Diaz probably needs more at bat. So, yeah, I'm not sweating it. It's just one of the small things that we'd like to see get fixed, but overall yeah, I saw that comment there. But overall, they won the ball game. They tied the series. It was a great offensive performance, great performance from Framber. So I'm not going to get too wrapped up in it. That's just something that, we see how difficult these Phillies are to beat. I mean, every extra out you give them, it scares the crap out of you.
Yeah.
So, that's the thing. You might need something out of your DH spot. So, we'll see. They have a day off. We'll see what Dusty wants to do.
We will see what Dusty wants to do. They need something out of the DH spot, but if you need something for World Series, like let's say it's World Series gear, if you want to rep the Stros, you need to go down to Academy Sports and Outdoors. They have everything you need to rep the Stros on the big stage. Swing by your local Academy stores right now. Find all the officially licensed tees like this and jerseys and caps. And I mentioned yesterday, it's cool outside. It's rainy. Astros hoodies. I'm just saying, I got some good stuff down there. At all the prices you'll love. If you can't go in person, I like to go in person. I just like to look at it. But if you guys want to look at academy.com, that's a really, really convenient way, especially with Christmas coming up.
Yeah.
So new styles arriving daily. Check back with them all the time. Does this performance by Dusty tonight, does it in some way kind of repair your trust in him? Or did he make any moves tonight that kind of stuck out as curious?
No, I mean, the Montero thing, he was in there for a while. I was
Yes.
wondering if they were gonna get him out of there or if Presley would come in early. And I
That
mean, after
that's what I
Schwarber
meant.
hit that home run
That's
that got
yeah,
overturned, that was terrifying.
that's exactly what I meant.
Yeah.
The Montero asking to get 5 outs from Montero. That was a bold ask, and
It was.
Montero came through, but not without a fair amount of atrial fibrillation, right?
Yes. That was hard to watch, because you don't just get the overturned home run, but then he hits it to the warning track. I mean, like he missed another one by like 2 feet. That was so scary. But hey, it turned out to be the right move. I mean, they got a little early. There were some hits
Yeah.
earlier in the game that could have been in the Crawford boxes if they were just a little further to the left. They were hit really hard, and some balls got caught right to the right of the Crawford boxes. So, they were living right tonight. A couple things broke their way, but a couple things didn't. There were some errors. Yuli with that error in the ninth inning, that was
Yeah.
scary. Of course, what we talked about, the exchange between Pena and Altuve, that was what I did like. Is after that, Pena was awesome. Like he went and snatched that little ball that could have fell into the outfield and prolonged that inning.
Yeah.
And he was aggressive and just made sure he got the catch. So really happy with Pena right there.
No, Pena is a beast. And again, that was the incident that I referred to when we were talking about Altuve earlier, where Altuve is just not covering second. And it's just I don't know what was
He wasn't even
happening in there.
looking that direction.
No, I don't know what the disconnect was there. Maybe he just thought Pena couldn't make the play. That's my only guess, is that he was surprised Pena was able to make the play and just wasn't in a position by the time he realized, that it was way too late. But this game felt like what last night's game 1, aspired to be.
Yeah.
Which was the Astros use the offense to jump on the opposing pitcher early, be aggressive, and get on, it's old school Altuve, right? If you throw me a strike for the first pitch, I'm going to put the bat to the ball. And tonight he was able to do something with it. And so it was just a matter of like, let's jump on Wheeler early here.
And it worked. And he hit the balls hard. That's the difference. He's been hitting a lot of dribblers and flares and bloopers. He actually put some barrel on it tonight.
He did. And conversely, Framber was able to give you what JV was unable to last night, which was Framber just gave you resilience. And when the Phillies were able to do something when there was just the tiniest plumes of smoke starting. Framber was there to be able to put out the fires before they got out of hand. We saw it time and time again. And
All pitching, man.
yeah,
It gets you out of jams with double plays, and and Fromber can get you that strikeout when you need it too. It was a good balance of that.
absolutely. And the instance I'm thinking of is in the top of the fifth, I believe, against the 7, 8, 9 hitters. And he allows a single to open the inning, and then gets Veerling to ground into the double play there, and then gets Sosa out. And it just felt like this is Fromber. Like this is who this dude has been all year long. And unlike Justin Verlander, for whatever reason, again, like whether it's, he's just not in rhythm or whatever the case may be, Fromber is that dude that we saw in the regular season. It's not a different Fromber. At least it wasn't in this game. And it, when he gets in trouble, like you said, he's a master of the ground ball out and being able to induce that double play and really just put out the fires. I think there was 2 on and none out, and gets out of that inning.
Yeah. And later in the 6th, he same deal where he got Harper to hit into a double play. And he's also kind of undoing his mess in that inning in the 6th. He walked Schwarber to start the inning. And you hate that because we keep talking about the momentum. Well, just, in the bottom half of that inning before, that's when Breggy hit the 2-run bomb to extend the lead. And then you come right out and walk Schwarber, and you're just like, oh God, here we go again. So it was great that he was able to work around.
And that was the difference is that Fromber was able to clean up his mess, which that's just what he does. Like it's McCullers is as much in the same way when he can induce a lot of ground balls. With all that crazy sinking action, but Fromber's the best at it. And instead of what happened in game 1, which was Verlander would give an inch and then the Phillies would just take him out with, Verlander just, the problem, if we're being honest, is that Verlander just kept catching too much at the plate with his pitches. That's what it was. But Fromber just continued to battle. And even when, just so many instances of adversity, just continued to battle through it. And so, the broadcast at the end, talking about how, Fromber's 6 1/3 start is basically the longest World Series start since Zach Greinke in 2019. And I was like, stop with the 2019. I don't need to hear any more about 2019.
Yes. And they already jinxed us last night with, Verlander's got a no-hitter. And then he proceeds to just light a fire and just set the mound on fire after that.
It was literally immediately after that was when the floodgates just came open. But that was incredible. So Framber Valdez, as far as I'm concerned, is leader in the clubhouse for player of the game on this game. One other guy that I want to talk about, Ryan Pressly.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan Pressly, a lot of question marks about Pressly coming in to the postseason. Could he maintain? Could he be solid? And especially going into the Yankee series because of how that regular season series unfolded in New York. New York thought, we got his number. We've gotten to him before. Ron Pressly just wasn't having any of that. And he has been pretty solid. Now, out tonight was a non-save situation. Wasn't necessarily the cleanest of innings for Ryan Pressly. He gets Castellanos strikes out swinging. So Castellanos strikes out swinging, and then Baum doubles to center. Dubon's playing center makes a great play on this ball, makes a cannon throw, and makes it close at second, where it really had no business being close to second. But so Baum, and There's Dubon, just like immediately in the game. And we always talk about it, it's that thing in baseball is like right when you check in.
Ball
And basketball too is right when you check in, the ball finds you or a play finds you.
Yep, it's so true. And he was ready for it. He made a great play. Remember the last defensive replacement? I remember him coming in and that ball with the weird spin kind of blooped into center field and he overran it. And it looked like a debacle, but he looked good in this one. And Presley just dealing with it, pitching around the double. The error from Yuli didn't matter. Presley did a good job.
Yeah, for sure. And the Astros have to feel good coming away from this game, considering the fact that you've now faced their two toughest pitchers, and they did get a win. They didn't end up stealing the win out of game one, but they've faced their two toughest pitchers and have put a number on them. And so you have to, and the Astros have seen a fair amount of their bullpen. And granted, Dusty's had to dip a fair amount into his as well. They've asked a lot out of Montero, Abreu.
Those are his guys.
And Presley.
Yeah,
and Presley.
Stanek wasn't up again. The guy that was up that didn't get in was Neris, right?
Right.
So those have been the leverage guys, not Stanek. And I know Stanek did get some work yesterday, but that's good. He'll get a couple days off, and I'm sure they'll use him in Philly.
Yeah, Shady, I'm with you, man. Yeah,
Dubon did that great.
That was awesome. Yeah, so Presley, I wanted to talk to you about that though, because the post-game show last night, Dusty was asked about why did you get up Luis Garcia? Why did Luis Garcia go in before Ryan Stanek? And he said, well, we have our lane for Luis, and we thought this was going to be his best opportunity was to go up against these hitters. And so then when, Luis couldn't get out of the inning, and they brought in Stanek, and it's very strange. You and I talked about it last night. Like, this is usually the time of the year in which teams don't get away from what they did. We know Luis Garcia did not come out of the bullpen during the regular season. And now Luis Garcia is coming out of the bullpen in the postseason. Now, granted, it's in extra innings, so it's not like he's just coming out in a regular game in innings 1 through 9. But Ryan Stanek, high leverage relief pitcher for them all year. We talked about this last night. How Ryan Stanek's been handled this postseason is going to be talked about a lot, especially if the Astros are not able to close this out. And the questions start coming around about Dusty and kind of the odd decision making that can, that he's known for at times. Tonight was another one where he's asking 5 outs of Montero. Now, granted, I know you get the day off tomorrow, so that's good. But Montero's been taxed. They've been using Montero a lot. We just talked about it. Neris not as much. Neris, it seems like they like him coming in for those high relief, high leverage situations when maybe guys are on base and they need a strikeout. That split finger fastball can induce the strikeout that they need in those situations. So he really hasn't. He's been used frequently, but not used extensively, if that makes sense. Yeah. But the bullpen has been as advertised. Mm-hmm. I don't blame the bullpen on what happened in game 1, because technically Luis Garcia is not really a bullpen pitcher. I know everything goes out the window in the playoffs, but he's not technically a relief pitcher. And also the offense might want to scratch across a run between innings 3 and 10. So that's the other thing.
Yeah, that's critical right there. And they interviewed Real Muto right after he hit the homer yesterday, and he said that was the first time he'd ever faced Luis Garcia. So maybe that was the logic where they're like, hey, they haven't seen Garcia. Maybe we have the advantage here, but it didn't matter. They went deep off him. Yeah, that might have been the logic. Sometimes you feel like it was the logical move. It just didn't work. And it didn't work. And I would have rather them go to Stanek. Stanek's the guy with the splitter too, like Neris. He can get you some strikeouts, get you some ground balls with that pitch. But, it worked tonight, and Stanek will be fresh for the next game. I wish they would have pulled Justin Verlander a little sooner yesterday. It occurred to me, do you think Dusty was trying to get him out there for the 5th just to kind of get that World Series win? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's what there's been discussed. That was part of the discussion today. You know, the postmortem that went on with today it was like, okay, all of Astros Twitter's back on and we're talking about it. And now there's the emotions removed of, you've had a night to sleep on it and you can kind of just look at it kind of logically and maybe, but that was a lot of the thought was getting Verlander back into where he could, get that win. And I understand, you're riding your ace. It's Justin Verlander. And the first 3 innings, you had every indication that he was rolling. And so I know there's a lot of people dogging Dusty today and last night, about what he did last night and leaving JVN too long. I can see the plan.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily always agree with it, but I can see the plan. And the plan also includes Stanek's use or lack thereof. They have very specific ideas when they want to use Stanek. They're 3 wins away from winning the World Series. It's tough to they've lost once in the postseason so far. It's tough to question Dusty extensively, but this series has re-raised a lot of the questions that Astros fans had during the regular season about some of the more curious moves that Dusty makes. I want to ask everybody that's in the comments here what they think about Dusty and how he's done on the job managing the team thus far in the first 2 games of the World Series. And Josh, I want to ask you, for those people who are interested in getting World Series merch, especially Astros World Series merch, where they can get that from.
They can get it at Academy, man. Do we have our little Academy graphic?
Yes, we do. Good
Awesome.
call. Yeah.
Look how produced and fancy we are. Guys, get over to Academy right now. The World Series is here. What are you waiting for? Get over to Academy Sports and Outdoors. They have everything you need. They got your Astros gear, T-shirts, jerseys, ball caps, whatever you need. It's the officially licensed stuff. It's the good stuff. And also, academy.com. If you want to find out what they have, go, pull it up on your phone, check out what they have, and then you already know what you want to buy when you roll to Academy tomorrow. So guys, they got you covered. All your ALCS stuff, World Series stuff, if we get that far. So get over to Academy Sports and Outdoors.
Indeed. Yeah. You can get the merch on it with the World Series stuff now. Yeah. And if they close out the series, knocking on wood, then you can go get that. And we know that how popular that is, and Academy is the place to go get that stuff. Yep. So appreciate Academy in all seriousness for sponsoring this podcast. It's really awesome. We were just 2 dum-dums that like to talk baseball and Astros specifically, and they're willing to come on board. So we appreciate it. They are the official sports and outdoors retailers for the Astros. All right. So Josh, I asked our crowd here what they thought of Dusty's managing so far. Let's look at Rain says terrible through the first 2 games. Average Joe says not a Dusty fan. Love him as a person. That's sweet. Yep. Very sweet. I don't know if that has anything to do with our question. John David says, I'd question Dusty if they didn't win tonight. Well, that was what I asked you to kind of begin the conversation this evening was, did this change your opinion of Dusty's decision-making? Or does it redeem? I know there were some questions last night and we talked about that extensively. Did this restore a little bit of your faith in Dusty tonight?
I take Dusty's moves with a grain of salt. This isn't my first rodeo watching the Astros. I expect Dusty to make some decisions that you might kind of scratch your head a little bit, but that's, that when you watch enough Astros games, that's how Dusty manages. He manages by feel quite a bit. And I mean, you see him walk into different sides of the dugout when things are going good or when things are going bad. He's got his own style. And, sometimes you're going to question what he does, but sometimes it works. And he pulled all the right strings in the first 2 series. So, I think you roll with it. That's all you can do at this point. You just hope for the
You're going to
best.
have to.
Yeah.
These are the people who brought you to the dance, and he's one of them. And he's brought you to 2 dances in subsequent years. So, you're here like this. You're going to roll with him, and he's going to roll with his guys, and it's going to be for better or for worse. And look, for as much as we don't understand it, he's using the Stanek the way he's using Stanek. He's using Mancini and Diaz the way he's using Mancini and Diaz. We're just going to have to. This is how it's going to roll. Jack says that his girlfriend thinks Dusty needs to be more aggressive, like throwing the toothpicks at people.
Yes. Yes.
Like just being literally more abrasive as a person. Like, I'm not real sure what that means.
Yeah, but probably pulling Verlander a little earlier, and when things aren't going well, maybe, I wrote this note yesterday, and it's like, I want them to be a little not so reactive, like I want them to kind of look ahead a little more. Just don't react to what happened. I would like to see them be a little more proactive. And that means when things aren't looking good, maybe go to somebody else. It was clear that Verlander didn't have it anymore, but you're right. He's your ace. It's the World Series, and he looked good the first 3 innings. So
you just thought maybe he'd find it. And I don't know if we thought that, I think in that moment, what some of us were thinking was, this is what that deep bullpen's for.
Yeah.
This is why you're carrying all those damn starters on your bullpen.
And they're rested. It's game 1. Yeah.
Yep. And you're going to have a day off. You finally have 2 days off in a series, which is amazing. So you have that to your advantage. Like, you can go deep, but he wanted to go back to JV, roll the dice. JV didn't have it, and coughs up the entire lead. I think, again, as frustrating as that was to see, the offense also had opportunities. And last night, it's great that Altuve had 3 hits tonight. If he had 1 last night in the bottom of the 9th, they win that game. Then you're talking about the Astros being up 2-0 headed to Philly. And, granted, second baseman makes a terrific play on that pop-up. Oh, no, that was actually their right fielder, right?
Castellanos.
Castellanos makes that sliding catch. Great catch.
Yeah, it was a nice play.
It's one of those things where if he bobbles the ball, like, they had some defensive gaffes tonight. If he bobbles the ball, mishandles it, Altuve scores, the end, because it was Pena's little bloop. It was 2 bloops in a row. And unfortunately, they didn't get there.
No, in the 10th inning, they had their chance too with Bregman on second base.
Absolutely. You could have had you got a walk-off win. You could have had a walk-off win after being down 1 in the top of the 10th. No, absolutely. The offense had their opportunities last night. So I don't want to put it all. I think it's misplaced anger to put it all on Verlander. But, he even said after the game, I should be able to hold a 5-run lead.
And he's never done that before. I think they said that the commentator was just like, that's the first time Verlander's ever blown a 5-run lead in his career. So, flukes happen. It's baseball. That weird stuff happens in the playoffs. So, I'm not too worried about it. We got the win today. I would have been cool if he would have told me, hey, we're going to split the first 2 games against, Wheeler and Nola. I would have been like, okay, good. Then at least we beat one of their aces, in one of the games. It would have been nice to have 2, but oh well, at least we know the series is coming back to Houston.
It is. And we're over, we talk about Verlander, being the ace of the team because of what's happened in the regular season, and also the legacy of Justin Verlander, who is a, Hall of Fame pitcher. He's going to be a 3-time Cy Young winner, yada, yada, yada. His resume speaks for itself. He's not been himself necessarily in the postseason, but he is still the ace of the team with Framber. One of the best pitchers on the team hasn't even pitched yet in this series. And that is your guy, Christian Javier. You are the president of the fan club for Christian Javier.
Yep.
And they haven't seen him yet. So this is where the Astros can have an advantage here with that bullpen. I want to shout out to MP because he says he's living in Washington. He's a transplant from Texas. MP, let's see that Bucky's thing. in your avatar, that's what's up. Yeah.
Yeah.
We miss you here in Texas as well. But yeah, what do you think on that?
I like Javier pitching on the road because he went to Yankee Stadium, and he was great. He's proven he can go in on the road, shut down offenses. That fastball is, you've seen Harper, these guys are having trouble with those high fastballs. And that's what Javier does really well, is get high fastballs past people. So I like it. He's battle tested having to pitch in New York. So I like his chances in Philly, and McCullers too. McCullers had to pitch in New York, and he'll be ready. We're so lucky to have such good pitching. We really are. So hopefully the bats keep rolling. To me, it's just critical that Altuve stays productive. Altuve at the top of that lineup. They need him. It had to feel weird for these guys the whole postseason to look at Altuve and just be like, what happened to this guy?
Yeah.
And so for him to get rolling, that's exactly what they needed.
3 for 4 with a run score tonight. He is hitting, I think, 171 for the postseason, or at least the series. Bregman, only 1 for 4. I say only 1 for 4, but
it was a big one.
Yeah, a big one. Talk about Bregman. I mean, it's been so critical to have this guy return to form and to be the postseason Breggy that we're used to. I don't think it can be overstated that they're only this far with the consistency of output offensively and defensively from Alex Bregman.
Yeah, the barehanded plays, and he just puts competitive at bats together consistently. If the ball is off the plate, he's the least likely one to chase. And with Jordan has been so up and down, and a lot of the lineup's been very up and down. Bregman gives you some consistency that he is gonna put some professional bats together. He's gonna take a walk when they're not pitching to him. He's gonna make sure he sees some pitches, man. And that's what you need. Just a little bit of reliability, Breggy's coming up. We know we're going to get a real at bat here. And Yuli's kind of done the same thing also. Yep. Just stabilizing the lineup to where you have your ups and downs with your Jordans and Altuves and Penas, but you got Breggy and Yuli just kind of holding down the fort and in the middle of your lineup. And that's been critical. And I think Framber too, gives some credit that the Phillies really beat you with their left-handed power hitting, and having Framber be left-handed, that helps, obviously,
Yep.
And so it was great to have him with that nasty breaking ball. The fastball was playing tonight too. So I think that was critical for sure.
You mentioned Jeremy Pena.
Yep.
And that's another guy who we can't even say he's an unsung hero because he was the ALCS MVP in his rookie season, nonetheless. 1 hit for 4 at bats, has a run and an RBI. We talked about it off the top of the shows. He helped set the tone. 2 pitches and you score a run to get the game going after a really heartbreaking gut punch of a game in game 1. It was so important to come out and set the tone. It's also been super important. You haven't gotten a lot of productivity out of your leadoff spot. So it's been so important that you get something, especially because Jordan's not really giving you anything either. So you're not even seeing, the Pena's not getting necessarily the same kind of quality of pitches. He's still finding ways to be productive, both with his bat and with his glove. But Jeremy Pena, a guy who for long stretches of time in the season, in the middle of the season, looked lost at the plate. And there's been times in which he's felt susceptible to that breaking low and away.
Yep. Did it tonight.
Yeah,
he's going to have some, you just have to, just like with Dusty, he's going to make some moves. We were kind of like, are you sure with Pena? You're going to have to watch him strike out on some sliders every now and then, but you put up with that because he puts great at bats together, and he was your ALCS MVP. And on defense, him catching that ball to get them out of that inning, it was in the 8th. To me, that was huge. That just shut the door on that inning. That could have gotten away from him. That was big.
It really was big. We haven't even really talked about the top of the 8th and just how crazy it was. It looked like it was going to be a 5-3 game with Schwarber hitting what was initially called, or seemed to be called, a home run. The crew gets together, converges and says, no, that's a foul. I believe it's challenged, right? And then upheld. Is that how that went down?
Yeah. They're like, we're changing our call. We're calling it a foul ball. Now we're going to go review it.
Okay.
And that's what happened. I called that one on my couch. I was just like, that's foul. You know, I was just like, no way, that is a foul ball. And sure enough, we got the angle. We had the Astros fans waving like, hey, that ball was foul.
Yeah. And Tucker immediately said the same thing. He was like, what? I think it caught everybody off guard, the call. But then Schwarber gets a hold of one and almost puts it in the seats again.
Yeah. Tucker's ass was against the wall pretty much when he caught that. So that was terrifying because they kept coming up and in on Schwarber with fastballs over and over and over again. And I mean, you got to shake it up a little bit. I mean, this guy's a good hitter. He knows what you're trying to do. And you're in that jam because what did you do? You led off the inning with a walk, you know? So that's those walks to lead off innings have really come to scare Astros fans a lot over these two games.
Well, walks in general, I mean, that's just, you can't do it. It's just, especially once you're this far in the postseason, when you're in the World Series, it's because these two teams are hot because they have two guys on each side, on each team that can get it done. And in today's game, it tends to be guy gets on, guy hits home run, or, you know, two guys get on, guy hits home run. Yep. It was the Yankees formula all season. And what the Astros said was, no, we're just not going to do that. We're just not going to give up the long ball to you. Mm-hmm. We're just going to strike you out instead, to the tune of 50 times in the series.
I'm cool with that.
Yeah, no, that they had a different plan for them. If you plan on going and getting some World Series gear this weekend, I would suggest that you go to Academy Sports and Outdoors. They are your official provider for all of the Astros licensed gear. You know, stop by either your local Academy stores to get, you know, licensed t-shirts like this one, jerseys and caps, all the prices you'll love. Shop online, academy.com. Get even more Astros gear online because they probably have some stuff there that's not in the store maybe. And you check back every day because there's always new stuff coming in. But for the entire family, step up to the plates for some game-changing gear. And whatever you wore today, if you bought you something from Academy today, you got to wear it on Monday.
You do. And that's great. No game tomorrow. Perfect day to go to Academy. Get your gear.
Yes. And if it's raining again tomorrow, probably get you an Astros, official Astros slicker, you know, rain slicker or something like that. Or it's cool, so get you a hoodie. I mean, who doesn't love a good pullover? They also make great gifts for the holidays.
Ooh,
so
I got this at Academy.
There you go. Yeah, they don't pay me to go to Academy. They just pay me to tell you that I go to Academy.
Yeah.
Thank you to Academy for sponsoring the podcast. We really do appreciate it. So I guess, you know, to kind of put a bow on this, I kind of told you who my leader in the clubhouse was for this game. We do this every night. After each of these games, we ask everybody that's watching right now, tell us who your player of the game was. Josh, I'm going to turn it over to you. Who was your player of the game? I'm going to watch the comments and start flagging stuff to feature on, but give us your player of the game for tonight.
I am going to go with Altuve. He had the most hits in the game. He had 3 hits. He's the one that got it started. To me, that's the shot in the arm the Astros needed. They had to get Altuve going. He sparks the whole team. So I'm going to give it to my man, Jose Altuve.
Cool. So we're getting some, here we go. Let's go. Framber easy. Trevor says Framber.
Yep. Well deserved.
We got another Framber. John David says Framber, and then he's got the closed discussion. I like that. Jack says the Frombergler. Heather with Jordan.
There you
go. I don't think Academy sells Coors Light, but I'll put you up there. Rain says Fromber. Now, World Traveler agrees with you. He says Altuve. Shady 79 says Fromber.
Yeah, a lot of votes for Fromber. which makes sense. He was brilliant tonight.
Yeah. That's going to be my pick for player of the game this evening is Framber Valdez. It was so important for the Astros to be able to hold on to a lead. The offense did their job the same way they did last night, which was they came out and put runs on them early and, put the pressure back on them, and give credit to this Phillies team who are, as we said, relentless. Every time the Astros have hung a number on them, they've fought back, and they fought tonight too, and were scrappy again tonight. And in a couple times looked like they had gotten even closer than the final score ends up indicating. But it was just so important for Framber to have the sort of outing that he had tonight. You could not afford to go back to Philly in an 0-2 hole. You also couldn't afford for Framber to have a short night to where you go even deeper into your bullpen. You want to be able to save some of these guys. There might be situations and you don't want to feature somebody right now. And the Stanek things, I don't know if that's the thought, but maybe it's one of those things where I'll show you a high leverage guy that you haven't seen the entire series. Maybe that's kind of the thing. Maybe he's just hiding Stanek and waiting for the right time to unleash him on somebody, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't even know.
Hunter Brown's in that same basket to me.
Yeah, exactly. And we talked about it. I don't think Hunter Brown's going to he had a little bit of a rough outing against the Yankees, and I think that basically buried him. But it's not ideal for them to go to Hunter Brown right now. They want their starters to go long. Yeah. They want a bridge to Neris, Montero, and then Presley. That is who they want to use. And with a tiny splash of Luis or Stanek as the case dictates, but it's clear what they're going for here. And they have the horses to do it. There's a reason why this bullpen is as fresh as it is going into the postseason. It's because they've been good, but they also haven't had to been featured as much because the Astros starters have been able to go deep into games, and that continued tonight. Framber looked like the Framber from the regular season, and that was so important because in years past, he hasn't always looked like himself in the postseason, and Justin Verlander's output in this postseason hasn't always been Justin Verlander-esque. Yeah. So it was so important. So I think Framber is going to get the nod from me for MVP because he had a lot of weight on his shoulders tonight to go out there and not let a really pesky Philly team claw their way back, and especially when the Astros punch, to limiting the counterpunch. And so my hat tips to him because he showed some giant cojones tonight.
He did. And, you're going to need Framber again, most likely in this series. And so you want Framber coming off a good start if you're going to need him again. So I think that's just great for him. Success lends to more success. That's how you build confidence, is having good outings. So
Duncan, what are you talking about? What troubled by the video? What happened? Was it what's the video? I guess put it in the comments there. We've got a few more
Framber votes.
Yeah.
Yep. There's one for Altuve. Altuve setting the tone.
Trevor says Granado needs to go to Academy to get a cooler for all of his Bud Light. The only reason Granado doesn't need coolers because he gets them for everybody. He doesn't bring them. He might buy you some, but he doesn't bring any.
He's got people.
Yeah, no, he's got a Coors Light guy. Of course he is. Framberized.
Yeah, lots for Framber.
Yeah, man, you can't overstate what a gigantic performance the Astros were able to get out of Framber tonight. He's been one of their hammers in their rotation, and again tonight just comes through big time. Josh, any final thoughts on Game 2 as we kind of put a bow on it, or thoughts looking ahead to Game 3 in Philadelphia?
Offense is kind of doing what we want him to do. It'd be nice if we could get Jordan hot again. He did have the big hit off the wall tonight, so that was good. You could just see it. Altuve just got all these guys going early. They were just waiting to pop. They were just waiting for something good to happen. So I like it that we touched up their 2 aces in both games.
Yeah.
So, that's because they were really leaning on that, like, hey, we're going to have those guys for 4 games so that we like our chances. Well, I get it, but we touched them both up. So you like that for momentum going forward. I love what I'm seeing from Breggy, Pena, just all the guys. I'd like to see Christian Vasquez get a start. Yeah, you think maybe we see that in Philly?
I think there's a high likelihood if it's a Christian Javier game, there's a high likelihood, I think, that Christian Vasquez gets some Christian on Christian action. And I think that's
Christian Vasquez. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's when we'll see him. What do you think about, you talked about the Astros touching up both of the Phillies aces, but the Phillies touched up one of the Astros aces, and that ace it wasn't just by this team. We've talked about, he's struggled in these playoffs, specifically in the first series and in this series. Any trepidation in going back to, Verlander in the rotation as it works back around to him? And do you think Dusty will have a shorter leash with him this time around?
He's got to have a shorter leash, but it's Dusty. He's going to pitch Verlander if it's his day to pitch. He's Justin Verlander. So yeah, you just got to have a short leash with him, keep an eye on him, and hope for the best, man. Like, what are you going to do at this point? Do you trust Jose Urquidy over Justin Verlander? I don't think so. You stick with your guys. So I think they're going to stick with their, and it depends on what this series looks like too. We're just getting started, guys. I think this is going to be a long 7-game series.
Average Joe, I completely agree with you. I think this, and I know we have twice as many people that are in here tonight, so we appreciate the big crowd. Last night, Josh and I don't necessarily enjoy or aren't in a good mood after losses. Nobody is, but this was therapeutic to be able to get in. One of our first shows, I think show 3 was the 18 inning game, right?
Yeah.
So imagine watching a 6-hour game and then having to do a, hour and a half post game show on it. And, not having to, we did these because we wanted to do them, but it's just, you guys, it's a long thing. Yeah, it is a commitment. So we appreciate that actually somebody shows up to watch this stuff, because like I said, we're just a couple of dummies talking baseball. I want to also thank Academy for sponsoring us. So go get your World Series gear at Academy. They got everything you need. Go to academy.com if you can't stop in locally. All the Astros tees, jerseys, caps, hoodies, pullovers, all that good stuff. More Astros gear coming daily. So go check Academy for those.
Check the website, guys. They have all the stuff. So go pick out what you want and then go pick it up tomorrow. No baseball game tomorrow. Perfect day to get to Academy.
Warren Jones, I love that. Let's end on that.
All right, Warren.
Everybody, please go. If you haven't, I'm trusting that you've already subbed to the channel, of course. If you haven't, please do. Just hit like on the video. If you've been watching this, we got a lot of people that are still watching. If you've been watching this, just go hit like. It costs you nothing, I swear, and it helps us out. Even if you don't want to subscribe to us, you should. But even if you don't want to, just hit like on the video. Just see the Phillies troll that's in here, like talking all the stuff about the Trastros and all that. Come on, we're giving you a place to troll, so just give us a like. So we appreciate it. Heather, we'll see you. Good night. Voodoo, Average Joe, Mark, Warren, Moises, Voodoo, Chill Bill, Papa D, our friends Sokolov, Trevor, I may have mentioned you already, South Repeat, all you guys. Bobby, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. We will see you after Game 3 of the World Series, hopefully talking about another win. Go Astros, guys.